All righty, good Thursday afternoon to you. Welcome in, Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Great to have you along. We do it each and every day, Monday through Friday, noon until 2, right here on Big Play. And, of course, streaming live on Twitter and YouTube. If you have the Twitter app, you can – or I'm sorry, it's X. I'm never going to say X. There are certain things that I have eventually come around to. I don't see myself ever saying X. One, it feels dirty. I feel dirty. It's Twitter. X. At Chico Show CLE. Yes, Bo.
Do you think that Elon gets offended, like if someone accidentally says Twitter to him? Do you think he corrects them?
That is a good question. I wonder. Do you think that Elon really, like, this was his plan all along to ruin Twitter? Like, I really wonder that now. I'm curious about that.
There are many conspiracies about his true motivation behind all of this.
I mean, it's definitely not like it was, and
No.
I don't mean that. I'm not in terms of content, just like what I'm used to seeing, or what, who would see my tweets.
It's definitely not the same.
Yeah, there's something happened there. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure it out.
The algorithm has shifted.
Yes, the algorithm has shifted. I feel very smart. Let me say that again. Ladies and gentlemen, the algorithm has shifted. All right. So at Chico Show CLE on YouTube, if you're not subscribed already, you can type in the Chico Borman Show. Hit that subscribe button. Appreciate that. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, and now live on the iHeart radio station. Type in Big Play. You're ready to go. Coming up, bottom of the hour, going to talk a little NBA. Wait a minute. Yeah, it is that time of the year. Cavaliers begin on Wednesday. I think they got their final preseason game Friday, tomorrow, against the Pacers, and then they go on the road Wednesday against the Brooklyn Nets. And we're going to talk to our old pal, Mitch's Lawrence. I say Mitch's because his email account has that little S in there. But Mitch's Lawrence, who will join us coming up at 12:30, get a little season preview, not only on the Cavaliers, but everything else that's going on. Just when I thought I couldn't hate James Harden even more, like what is this guy doing with Philadelphia? I mean, the one guy that actually really, I think, stood up for him and defended him over the years and liked him and tried to treat him well. And I'm not one that takes the owner's side all the time, but Daryl Morey, I think, for the most part, did try to do right by him. James Harden is just I don't know. I mean, who in their right mind would try to pair James Harden with Kyrie Irving and think that that's going to work? I mean, you want to talk about oil and water. Like, no freaking way that was going to work. But anyway, we'll talk to Mitch Lawrence coming up bottom of the hour. Browns back on the practice field. Does that include Deshaun Watson? I feel like there should be an hourglass that so are the days of our lives. The very latest on Deshaun Watson. Yesterday, he spoke to the media. That's different than it was a week ago when he didn't speak to the media and he didn't practice. He didn't practice yesterday. Now there are rumblings, Bohm, that he might practice. All right, let me just say this. The Browns I'm speaking of, when I say they have made, and I'm not faulting them, I'm just stating a fact. they have gone to great lengths to point out that he is not 100% and that they are trying to get him as close to 100% and get all of his faculties together, whatever the hell faculties includes. So my feeling is, and no, I'm not looking at this as at all, matter of fact. I'm not looking at Sunday as, well, you can beat Indianapolis without P.J. Walker or without Deshaun Watson. I'm not looking at that at all, that way at all. I mean, Baltimore lost to Indianapolis. Like it's the NFL. But again, I said earlier in the week, the win over San Francisco, which was huge, loses a lot of its shine, a lot of its luster, 95% of it, if it's followed up with a loss to the Colts. So this is an important game, and this is not one that you look past the Indianapolis Colts. My point is, it seems as though the Browns are taking the big picture approach with Deshaun Watson. They have gone to great lengths to tell us that, you know, if he's not ready, he's not going to play. If he can't drive the ball down the field, then he's not going to play. You know, when he's comfortable, when he feels okay, then he'll go and he'll be our starting quarterback. And this is not going to be a decision made by Kevin Stefanski or Andrew Berry. This is solely on Deshaun Watson. Now, you can look at that and say that's good. You can look at that and say that's bad. Those that say it's bad would say, well, he's already got a lot of money. What's his motivation for playing? That's not my reason for being skeptical. My reason is he will not risk playing poorly and losing a football game because he played poorly and risk the criticism that comes with that. He is very, very, very much aware of all of that stuff. And I think maybe there was a time in his career with Houston where it didn't bother him. It bothers him now. Like it or not, he wakes up every day, and this is the situation he's in. He's not very well liked by even many in Cleveland, but certainly nationwide. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And, you know, it is what it is. He's going to have to find a way to deal with it. Now, the good news is for him, yeah, you do have a lot of money, and so that can kind of, you know, make life a little bit easier for you. You don't have to worry about any kind of financial issues. But money can't buy everything. Money can't buy peace of mind to an extent. And I think that's where he's at right now. He wants to make sure he is as close to 100%, if for no other reason. There are plenty of reasons, but if for no other reason than the fact that he wants to put his best foot forward. Is that necessarily because he wants the best for the team? I'd like to hope so and think so, but I think more importantly, he doesn't want to face the wrath of fans, media, and everybody if he doesn't play his best football. So when that will be, I don't know. But as it relates to this week, here's what I'm going to say. It's Thursday. He didn't practice at all. We don't know if he's going to practice today, and my guess is even if he does practice today, unless something miraculous happened between yesterday and today, that even unless something miraculous happened, he is probably going to be limited. Now, that's a step up from DNP, limited to full participant. But, you know, until he's a full participant and can go, I'm not going to expect the guy to play. And then you have the other issue of P.J. Walker needs to get ready for this game. Whoever is going to be starting for the Browns. Deshaun Watson hasn't played in a little while, and even before he hadn't played in a while, long while. So, you know, whoever is going to be the quarterback for this team Sunday in Indianapolis, they have to get ready. They have to prepare. They have to be ready to be the guy under center. And so I don't want to be going back and forth with like, well, Deshaun's going to get most of the snaps today because he feels good, but then he wakes up tomorrow and he's sore. And okay, then we go back to PJ. Just stay on the shelf until you feel as good as you can. Now, Bohm, you said this yesterday, that you thought there would be some controversy around some of his comments. And one of the comments you actually relayed before we went off the air at 2, and that is that he didn't give, like he wasn't definitive at all on his timetable. I believe he said something along the lines of, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to 100%. And that wasn't, I didn't have a problem with that answer. I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a problem with anything he said. It was going to be nothing. The Browns wouldn't let him say anything. He didn't want to say anything. So it was just going to be window dressing him in front of the microphone. But what did you make after having a chance to see and hear all of it? What did you make of anything that he said?
I think he was just being honest, Chico.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was very real. Yeah. This is a problem that not only do people heal at their own timetable, but this is something he's never experienced before. This is something that's limiting him. And as long as it's a reality that it's going to continue to limit him, I realize that he doesn't feel like he can put his best self forward on the football field. And it's hard to blame him. It's tough, and you had to expect, like we heard Eric Casillas say it yesterday, talking about he wants to stay away from mobile quarterbacks, right? Because they're always bringing injuries upon themselves when they're taking so many more hits. And that's always been a problem with Deshaun. And it was hard to imagine that he was going to play 17 straight games this season. But I'm willing to sacrifice this point in the season now of him missing time so that he can be closer to 100% where he feels comfortable being on the field.
I mean, and to that point, that's a good point. And to that point, you stole one against the Niners. I mean, and I'm not, and I'm not saying you didn't deserve it. Hell, you did deserve it. That's just it. That is not one that anyone, myself included, without a doubt, expected would happen. So for them to get that win over the Niners, you do get a little greedy. But again, now if you are a championship caliber team, or you're a team that has aspirations of being a playoff team and maybe even winning the division, which appears to be wide open, into the great wide open, Tom Petty would sing. If it's as wide open as we believe it to be, well, then these are wins that you've got to take care of. Indianapolis isn't in your division, but you should be able to take care of Indianapolis. Seattle isn't in your division. You should be able to take care of Seattle. And I'm not saying that because, again, every single week, I mean, we didn't make it through, 6 weeks, and every team has a loss. It's tough. I mean, this is a very, very difficult league. And any week, yes, any given Sunday, blah, 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 cliche after cliche. But these are games that you feel like with your defense, and here's the most important part. If your defense is not put in a compromised situation, or situations plural, I love the Browns' chances to win. Like, I'm not even saying that P.J. Walker has to do a whole lot, but he turned it over. How many picks did he have? 3? I mean, if we're real honest, he probably could have had
2. He had 2, but he should have had more.
Well, he should have had. He should have had about 5.
Yeah.
But you can't. That's the number one thing. Okay, and I'm not. I know that's shouldn't be a revelation for anybody, but it's you have as dominant a defense, maybe the most dominant defense in the NFL. Don't put them in a compromising situation. What's a compromising situation? Well, don't turn the ball over deep in your own territory and allow a team to only have to go 20 yards to get 3 and most likely 6 points, when in fact, if they've got to go 70, 80, they don't have much of a prayer. And that's where I think with whoever you put at quarterback, it's the reason, I mean, let's face it, it's the reason that they went from DTR to PJ Walker, which I'm all for. But like, as it relates to this week and back to Deshaun Watson yesterday, if Deshaun Watson is not, well, we don't know if he's going to, then let PJ get all the snaps. And I don't know, maybe Deshaun wakes up 90 minutes before kickoff in Indianapolis, shows up on the field, and he's like, holy, look at me. I'm throwing it over the stadium, coach. Put me in. Then you have a decision to make. But I'm not – you've got to get somebody ready, and I just don't want to play this game back and forth where you're like, well, he's going to get snaps, because whoever it is, and especially if it's P.J. Walker, he's got to get better, and he's got to get more confidence. So, yes, Bone, what are you laughing about?
No, to me, honestly, the biggest thing for PJ, because he was inconsistent in his first start with the Browns in terms of pushing the ball downfield. But I think that's going to be key here to keeping the Colts defense on their heels. Ultimately, I think that's what's going to allow them to move the ball more effectively, is if he's going to be able to complete some balls downfield. I just, like you saw it last week, right? In particular, a couple of throws to Amari Cooper that were phenomenal, by the way, and huge. And also, did you see, by the way, with that catch, Amari, that was the most improbable catch, according to Next Gen Stats, of the season thus far. Just an amazing jump ball grab by Amari.
I'll tell you what would be even more amazing is if other wide receivers were able to, because they really they got to start getting some more production out of the Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moores, Marquise Goodwin, all those guys. You still only have, I think, Amari Cooper is the only wide receiver that has a catch. A touchdown reception through 6 games,
Correct.
whatever, 5 games. So that's got to change. Hopefully it changes this week. You also hope the running game is going to be, much better as well. Boom, did I see did you bring a painter's hat into the studio? What is that? What do you got going on there?
Yeah, I did indeed, because the Browns are giving away these hats to season ticket holders. Shout out to my pops. He's been a season ticket holder since, I think, going back to the 70s. So, diehard fan. And yeah, I don't know. I just thought I would bring it in just as a gag.
Now see the painter's hat in the back. I just noticed this. The painter's hat that they used to give away, which honestly were a big deal. They didn't have the adjustment. It was just
Oh yeah.
It was just you didn't have the ability to adjust it. But yeah, I was saying to you, those painter hats I had. So at the top, the only difference is that in the back, and then at the top of it was the blue Sherwin-Williams insignia or logo. And instead of using it to wear as a hat, I used it as a decoration on my wall. Like I had and Hanford knows this, I had a couple of posters up in my room. Hanford Dixon, former Browns DB, and of course you see him here on Big Play. I had a poster on my wall, and it was Mighty Minnie and Top Dog. That was exactly what it said. They were on top of the terminal tower, and there was like a guy laying on the ground, and they both had their foot on him, and it was, Mighty Minnie, Top Dog. So I had that poster. Then I had this is total geek out, teenager mode here. Then I had the painter hats, 2 of them, and I had 2 orange pom-poms. And I think I had the growl towel is what they call it. So I mean, it was really decked out. But that was how I used the painter's hats more as decorations. I thought they gave you coats. Didn't I hear somebody say they sent jackets out to the
Yeah, so they did actually, Chico, because they only sent 1, but they sent 2 hats. So there was an extra hat.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, they knew how much you really wanted one of those hats.
First time rocking the painter hat, Chico.
There you go. All right. Let's see. Baseball last night. Max Scherzer. I'll tell you one thing about Max Scherzer, and this guy's a Hall of Famer, obviously, and he's incredible. But this year, it was we're gonna get good Max Scherzer, or you were gonna get bad Max Scherzer, and there was no in between. And last night was bad Max Scherzer. So you got more of a series. I had people asking me yesterday, like, what was the deal? Did you plan that with Brett Boone? Him coming out in the camouflage. I did not. I knew he was on a hunting trip in Idaho. I had no idea that he was just coming down from the hill to talk to us about the baseball playoffs. which we'll get into a little bit later on in the show. I'll tell you what, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some NBA. He is a longtime NBA columnist, currently with Sirius XM NBA Radio, a friend of the show, as we like to say. Mitch Lawrence, the NBA is right around the corner. What does he see in store for your Cleveland Cavaliers who get underway Wednesday in Brooklyn? We'll talk about it when we come back. It's the Chico Borman Show right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. A Thursday edition of the Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Great to have you along as we do it each and every day, Monday through Friday, noon to 2, available on Twitter and also YouTube, also wherever you get your podcasts. You can find it, download it, Apple, Spotify, also iHeart Live Radio, and check us out that way. Well, the NBA, yes, indeed, right around the corner. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago that we were just lamenting and we were all collectively licking our wounds after the New York Knicks put a hurting on our Cleveland Cavaliers, but some things have changed. Some faces have been added, and the NBA season is about to get underway. The Cavs will get underway Wednesday on the road at Brooklyn. He is a longtime NBA columnist, formerly with the New York Daily News and the Dallas Morning News, currently with Sirius XM NBA Radio. Mitch Lawrence is our guest. Mitch, how you doing, buddy?
Chico, I'm doing great. Always great to be on. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Well, I shouldn't say okay. I think I've said this to you. I know I've said this on the air. People here know. I just really dislike James Harden. Like over the years, it's just kind of been like, and it's not his game. It's just, and I know there's prima donnas. I know there's divas, but what exactly is he after now? He wants to go to the Clippers, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
What? Because it seems
he wants to leave the reigning MVP of the NBA to go to play with guys like Kawhi Leonard who never play.
So
figure that out.
And correct me if I'm wrong. You would know this inside stuff more than me, but Daryl Morey, I thought they had, at least on the outside, it seemed, a great relationship. Daryl Morey was one of the guys that would stand up for him. Now it seems like he's burned that bridge too.
Remember, this is still the most amazing thing about Daryl Morey. When they were in Houston and, James Harden got them to a Western Conference Finals, sometimes he was playing basically 1-on-5, but he was a prolific, you saw what he did. And then they lost to Golden State. When he had Chris Paul with him, they had a chance to beat Kevin Durant and Steph Curry 5-6 years ago. And what happens? Chris Paul, hurts his hamstring. So they lose that series after they had a 3-2 lead. Anyway, they got close, never made it. But that's when Daryl Morey talked that he had that thing that James Harden's a better offensive player than Michael Jordan. That's how much he loves the guy. Wow. He says stuff about James Harden that he tries to back up with these statistics, but just basically makes no sense at all in the real world that we live in, right? But that's how much he loves James Harden. But they have had a big falling out. It looks like it's basically a bridge that, was just burned down by Morey because he didn't give James Harden the long-term deal that he wanted. So Harden wants to leave and he wants to go home to LA to play with the Clippers. And like I said, when I interrupted you before, it just makes no sense. Here's Joel Embiid, who's a top player in the league. Okay, he's had his struggles too. He can't get past the second round, but he is the reigning MVP. He's one of the top players in terms of the MVP race every year. And James Harden no longer wants to play with him just because he wants to go home to play with Kawhi Leonard because he got his feelings hurt because Daryl Morey didn't give him the big deal. And I guess he thinks he's going to get one from Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer gives this guy a long-term extension. He's crazy, right? So, yeah, there's big problems in Philly. There's always drama in Philly. There's always, whether it was Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid or, long ago Sam Hinkie, there's always distractions and problems in Philly. And now it's James Harden. This move to get rid of him should have been done weeks ago because now he's basically, he's not showing up for team functions. And it's just, for Nick Nurse, it's a disaster because, first of all, they're not as good as Milwaukee or Boston, Chico. And second of all, they've got this internal issue that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, this is it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime fast. Like you mentioned the Clippers, and, yeah, I'm sure they'd love to have him or would like to have him maybe, but they're not going to be stupid about it either. What is the next move? I mean, what do you see as the next move?
They'll probably send him home. I mean, they'll probably tell James Harden to stay away from the team, and they'll try to win without him. And Daryl Morey's going to take his sweet time trying to get a deal that is probably unrealistic, and it's not going to happen. And they're going to have to move him at some point, you would think, because James Harden doesn't want to play for the Sixers, doesn't want to play. They upgraded their coaching situation. I like Doc Rivers, but Nick Nurse is a better coach. And so, James Harden, he's all about himself. Once again, his legacy now is he has these playoff flameouts. He's still a top performer in the regular season, but you can't count on him in the playoffs. He was awful the last couple of games, as was Joel Embiid. But against Boston, after they had the 3-2 lead and they couldn't close them out, James Harden couldn't make big shots, couldn't make any shots. So, this is what the situation is with Philly, and this is why you can't take Philly seriously as a contender because, first of all, I don't think they're going to get a lot back for James Harden. Second of all, you've got Joel Embiid, who they have to rely on, and he's pretty unreliable when it comes to games played. And in the big spots in the playoffs, Joel Embiid doesn't make the same kind of impact he does in a regular season. Hasn't been past the second round, and they're not getting past Milwaukee or Boston, and maybe even Miami for that matter. Because we always don't talk about Miami, and they seem to be in the mix of it. They seem to be in the mix in the playoffs.
What about Cleveland? Are they getting past Cleveland?
No. They had such a tough playoff series against the Knicks. The 4 losses, they averaged 91 points, which in this day and age is absurd in the NBA. I know it's the playoffs, but still, and they're great. Their best player, the great Donovan Mitchell, in the last 2 games was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting, he scored 30. He scored 39 points on 44 shots. The Knicks had all the answers for him. So we know they needed more offense going into this season. So they picked up Max Strus and George Niang. No, those guys don't move the needle for me. I know Max Strus had moments in Miami, but they're not big-time playoff performers, I don't think. So they're going to have a really good defensive team with guys like Jared Allen and Mobley. And in the playoffs, they'll make the playoffs. They're going to be – I got them basically sitting now in 6th in the East.
Ooh.
I got to put Philly, Miami, and New York above them. Philly because they got Embiid. Miami because whenever they take games seriously in the regular season, they'll be better than Cleveland. New York because New York shellacked them last year. And I'm not saying New York got that much better, what they do in the offseason. But I'm not a believer in Donovan Mitchell in the postseason. He's a very good regular season player. Last year, he was second team All-NBA. I got him sitting, what's their over-under? 48, 49 wins. They're definitely going to make the playoffs. They're better than the Nets, Atlanta, Toronto. They're on the next level, those teams. But I can't take Cleveland seriously because they're so backcourt centric when it comes to their offense, and they didn't do enough. And I don't know what they could have done more than they got with Max Strus and George Yang. So I don't know how they're going to be able to score in the playoffs. Once again, we'll see. And obviously, Milwaukee and Boston are just they're far and away better than, to me, Philly and those other teams.
So I said yesterday on the show, and I think those are all interesting points, Mitch. We're talking to Mitch Lawrence with SiriusXM NBA Radio. I said yesterday that this is I don't like saying hot seat, that sort of thing, but this is going to be, okay, now that you've added something to the roster, you've already had a chance to go to the playoffs, albeit it was a bad experience, but you were able to get that experience. Now it's what can you do? What can change? Now, so far, I'll tell you this, that pace and space and they're getting out and running, and that definitely wasn't JB's calling card last year, but it's what he's trying to do more of this year, more shooters and things of that nature. I guess from a pressure standpoint, I would say this is as much pressure and as much expectation as this team has had since probably LeBron was here.
Why?
Well,
Why are people expecting? What are people expecting? They're going to go to the second round? Is anybody up there thinking they're going to the finals or the conference finals?
Well, okay, let's say second round. Let's say, you have them sixth. So, in other words, if that happens, are you saying that the core, because this is a referendum not only on J.B. Bickerstaff, I think, but also on Kobe Altman, because a lot of what we have here in Cleveland have talked about with this team and this young, again, in quotes, core, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, is, okay, hey, these are the guys you're building around. Now, some of those guys really struggled last year. Is there anything, too, in your mind, them getting better from one year to the next, or do you think that improvement just isn't going to happen?
I think they have a definite ceiling, this team.
Okay.
Listen, and also, did you look at I just looked at their schedule, really took a really good look at it for the first time. I've taken a look at everybody's schedules, but I really honed in because I knew I was coming on to talk to you. 7 of the first 11 are on the road. The home games are Oklahoma City, Indy, New York, and Golden State. The road trip is Oklahoma City, Golden State, Sacramento, Portland. Then, right after they get back, I think they get Detroit, and then they got Denver, Philly, Miami, Lakers. That's a gauntlet right off. That's a murderer's row for that team right off the start. That is a very tough October, November. So I'm not saying, I don't know if JB Bickerstaff is in trouble. To me, he shouldn't be. To me, he's working with a team that's a limited offensive team, especially when you talk about the playoffs. And it's limited because the top player, Donovan Mitchell, he didn't deliver in Utah in many ways, although Rudy Gobert used to get the blame there, not Donovan Mitchell. And last year, Thibodeau and his crew did some job on Donovan Mitchell. And you saw, this was a team, they were just anemic. To me, the only team that was worse in terms of offense was Miami in the finals against Denver. Miami couldn't score. There are these situations, these playoffs where you have these teams that just can't get points. And Cleveland's one of them. And I don't know if that's going to change. And by the way, as long as we're talking about Donovan Mitchell, here's a guy with 2 years left on his contract until he can opt out. And we all think he's going to end up in New York or somewhere else because he really didn't want to go to Cleveland in first place. Who knows where he'll be? So they got to get it done. But yeah. But you're talking about JB. I don't think JB on the hot seat. I think the other people, the front office guys, should be on a hot seat. the roster, if you just look at how many, everybody puts out their top 100 list or top, where these players fall, top 20. They've got a top 20 player in Donovan Mitchell. And after that, where are you going to put Winston Garland, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley, those guys? They don't have a lot there. There's not a lot there, especially when you compare them to the Milwaukee's, Boston's, Phillies, Miami's. And Jalen Brunson was the best player on the floor in that series last year, wasn't he?
He was great. But I guess I would say, and it sounds like you're not giving any credence at all to a big jump for, say, Evan Mobley and Darius Garland.
Well, that has to come. I'm not saying it can't come, and to me, it's more about Mobley than Darius Garland.
I would agree.
Everybody talks about, and we've seen flashes from Mobley. But Mobley in the playoffs, boy, he struggled, didn't he? Okay, really struggled against the Knicks. So, you have those growing pains. We've talked about it. So, yeah, can he make the next step? Can he become a dominant player? Well, he's going to have to be featured a little bit more. He's going to have to show that he can do more things than he's shown in the past. So until that happens, you just wonder in the playoffs, how are they going to be able, teams are going to look at what Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks did, not saying they can play as good a defense, but they're going to use a lot of the same things if they can. And once again, Cleveland's going to have to show. I mean, just think of, you brought up the LeBron team. Think about it. This is how far they are from that team. At the end of playoff games, who could those Cavaliers count on? LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. They had two guys who could get you big baskets. Here, you really can't count on Donovan Mitchell. There's nobody else. You're not going to count on Darius Garland.
Well, but okay.
That's the situation. That's the problem right now, is that the star power is a lot less than what they had in the past. We all know that. No big surprise, especially LeBron. LeBron when he was, much younger, and Kyrie Irving, who despite all his flakiness is still a top talent. Donovan Mitchell, Garland, this is not nearly that team. And in today's game, it's not near Boston. It's not near, Boston now with Drew Holiday and their big two with Tatum and Brown, throwing Porzingis. Then you've got Milwaukee. We know what they've added with Lillard and Giannis. I got people telling me they're the best, 1-2 punch in the league. I said, excuse me, Jokic and Jamal Murray just won a title. These guys haven't played a second together, but I know that they have the potential. And then you got Philadelphia with Maxey and Embiid if Harden's not there. And so Cleveland just is on that tier or two down from these contenders.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
The problem is, going into the year, you're looking at success being getting to the second round. And after that, it's all gravy.
Yeah, I think I don't think anyone's putting them, nor should they, at least here in Cleveland, that, they should be Milwaukee, they should be Boston. I don't know if I'd put them as low as 6. Maybe that's just me saying that, I think that go ahead.
Are they better than Philly?
Right now? Yeah. I mean,
they're better than Philly with Joel Embiid, the MVP. Like, if they went into a series, you would pick them over Philadelphia. Philadelphia's got better coaching. They've got the reigning MVP, and they got Tyrese Maxey, and got Tobias Harris. I don't know what they're going to have for James Harden. That's better than Cleveland. Miami has Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. Now, they lost Gabe Vincent and Strus.
But
Those
if
are big losses.
Mitch,
Forget about Kevin Lovey's too. They're better.
Okay.
New York with Thibodeau, Brunson, and Julius Randle. They're better.
Here, Mitch, here's what I would say.
Or am I nuts?
Well, you are nuts, but that's why we love you. That's why we like talking to you. Here's what I would say. We make such a big deal, and I know you do as well, and I've always agreed with you. Getting playoff experience is huge. There is no substitute for it. They were, let's face it, they were in awe. Everybody was in awe. Oh, my God, it's the Garden. That's all we heard. Oh, my God, it's the Garden. It's Jared Allen. The lights are too bright. And even Donovan Mitchell I don't think that just you mean to tell me that's their ceiling? They can't get any better, because that playoff experience does nothing? JB
Well,
Bickerstaff, when you talk
it
about
could help. It could help, and you talk about improvement from within. That's the key.
yeah,
But they're in awe it's amazing that they were in awe of what was going on in the Garden. The team in front of them got smoked in the next round, got hammered by Miami.
yes, they did.
So it's like they lost to a team that's not much better than they are.
Yeah,
If you think about it, who do the Knicks have? They've got Brunson, who's a very good player. He's not an all NBA player in my mind. He's an all-star. Okay. They have a very good coach in Thibodeau who knows how to coach, especially in the playoffs, and make it difficult for the other team in terms of their defense. RJ Barrett, they got beat by guys like RJ Barrett and Julius Randle. That's not the Knicks are a tier down from Miami.
Okay.
You want to look at it that way.
If you like JB Bickerstaff as a coach, I know you said that before.
I do. He's fine. He's good.
And I know you've already said I'd look more at the front office. Now they brought in, and I understand Strus and Niang are not going to move the needle, but
they can help.
What they've done is they had no shooters last year. I mean, they're spreading the floor. All the ingredients were there for them to have a colossal. I get the sense that JB is going to say, okay, we don't want to just get in there and yuck it up and have it just be we're going to get out there. We're going to run a little bit. They're doing that in the preseason. They're going down there. They're looking for shooters, squaring up. I just think it's going to be a bit of a different offense.
It has to be.
Do I sound like a Cleveland homer? Do I sound like a Cleveland homer?
Well, listen.
It's okay.
Yeah, it has to be different. It's not. They got Strus to leave Miami there. It's still not, a great free agent destination. They're limited in terms of what they can do. The Donovan Mitchell trade, they gave up assets, but listen, to get a guy like that, but he's got to, it starts with him. He can't have these playoff performances like we saw where he was shooting, 36, 37% against the Knicks. And he was not the same player as he was in the regular season. He has to do more in the playoffs. You got to get more from your top player. If your top player or players are not performing up to their level, you're done in the playoffs because it doesn't come down to the Max Struses of the world. A game or two maybe, but it's got to be your top players. And yes, this team was for the first time together in the playoffs, and you have to hope that the regular season they'll be better. And defensively they should be great as usual, but offensively they have to make it easier to score, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs, and we'll see what the matchup is in the first round.
Let me ask you about Milwaukee because, you're right. You've got Giannis, you've got Dame. Good luck.
And Chris Middleton is your third option now.
Right. Are they defensively? Good. Chris Middleton's a good defender, but are they?
Oh, well, no, they lost a lot with Drew Holiday on the perimeter, but they still have Brook Lopez.
Okay.
Brook Lopez was up for Defensive Player of the Year. They've got a really good team. The big thing nobody's talking about is they have a rookie coach. Nobody's talking about Adrian Griffin, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Nobody's talking about now. He's a defensive coach. So how they make up for the loss of Drew Holiday is going to be very interesting on defense because defensively, the guy's a tremendous player. You've seen it. You saw it in their run to the finals a couple of years ago, Chico. Yeah. Now, offensively, what people aren't talking about either is, long before they got Dame, they hired his former coach from Portland, Terry Stotts.
He's now gone, yeah.
Terry Stotts is now sitting on the Milwaukee bench. He's going to run the offense. He's going to draw plays for Dame and Giannis. It's not going to be Griffin. That's Terry Stotts' strength, is offense. And for the first 9 years that Dame was in Portland, he was his coach. Nobody's talking about that. But it's always very interesting to me. We saw it in Boston last year. You have a guy who's never been a head coach before. In Boston's case, it's Joe Mazzulla. And here it's now Adrian Griffin. We don't know what's going to happen there in big spots in the playoffs.
Well, now
Joe Mazzulla struggle.
I didn't.
Right?
Stotts has stepped down, they said. Did you get that? Did you see that this morning?
When?
10, Adrian Wojnarowski put it out there about 10:30 this morning. Terry Stotts has stepped down. It says after sitting out 2 seasons following his departure, he has joined new coach Adrian Griffin's staff in the spring, but ultimately decided in recent days that he wouldn't continue in that role.
That's very interesting. That's not good. That's not good for them because they have Joe Prunty, who's a good assistant coach. But I thought Terry was a huge hire because of the Dame factor.
Right.
Somebody that Dame knows. And Terry Stotts is the way he's wired NBA-wise, you have offensive guys, defensive guys. He's an offensive coach. And you saw it in Portland. His teams were awful defensively, but they could score the ball. So this is a big blow for that coaching staff. I'll have to try to find out what the real reason is. But now you've got, Adrian, you got a rookie head coach coaching Giannis. I was surprised they hired him. I thought they'd go for Nick Nurse because Nick Nurse has a title.
I think he's a good coach.
Nick Nurse is proven, but they took a guy who was with Nick Nurse in Toronto, right, in Griffin. So it'll be interesting now with Milwaukee. And we haven't even talked about Boston hiring Jeff Van Gundy as a consultant. How about that?
Well, first of all, let me just say this. I'm going to miss. And we didn't have a lot to get excited about during the Knicks Cavs series. Do you know the most entertainment I had was Van Gundy and Mark Jackson going back and forth?
I'll miss, we're all going to miss that broadcast, that crew with Mike Breen.
Oh, I loved him.
And yeah, we loved him. And I've known Jeff for a long time. And for him to pop up now and help out with Brad Stevens is very interesting. I wonder if Joe Mazzulla is going to be looking over his shoulder. Jeff still wants to coach. He was up for the Rocket job a few years ago. I don't know what he's, up for lately, but obviously he needed something to do. So that's going to be the Boston situation is interesting because, last year for them was a huge disappointment. The way that season ended, losing to Miami, not making it back to the finals. And so, they've got, they added some, Drew Holiday. That's a great move to get Drew Holiday. The problem is they're putting a lot of eggs in the basket of Kristaps Porzingis. And is he going to be able to answer the call game after game after game? He's going to get hurt now. Horford is 36 years old, and they gave Robert Williams up. So their back line, there's a lot of questions about how good they can be defensively stopping people. So even though Milwaukee and Boston are the two clear-cut favorites in the East, I think we both know Milwaukee, perimeter defense, Drew Holiday. Now Terry Stotts has stepped down. Offensively, how's that going to work with, Chris Middleton accepting the third role, the Giannis Lillard combination, and then Boston having their problems. Those teams still have some significant, weaknesses, you could say.
All right. Well, we'll get you out of here with this. And as always, Mitch, I appreciate your time. We love talking NBA with you. So on the West side, I think you kind of hit on it, like talking about 1-2 punches, and you said, hey, that guy Jokic and Murray are still together. And are you thinking everything still goes through Denver? How do you look at the West real quick?
Oh, absolutely. I know people are talking about Phoenix because they added Beal. They're going to miss Chris Paul. They don't have a playmaker. They claim they don't need one with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. We'll see. We'll see if they get the ball in the right hands of the right people at the right time. But, it's all about Durant staying healthy there because when he's healthy, he's still like the best player. He could be the best player on some nights in the sport, right? When he's healthy. But he has suffered some breakdowns recently. And then people, if you're not talking about Phoenix, they're talking about the Lakers because the Lakers made their deep run last year. They made some good moves. The Gabe Vincent move was very good for them. They brought everybody else back. We'll see about LeBron and Anthony Davis if they can answer the bell. Nobody's talking about Denver. And Denver, Jokic is, to me, number one in the NBA by far what he can do. You got Jamal Murray there. Their starting five's intact. They lost their best bench players, but to me, they can replace those guys, the Bruce Browns and the Jeff Green. So we'll see. But yeah, they now know how to win. They've performed late in games where the end result was a Larry O'Brien trophy. The other teams out west are going to try to think about, they're going to try to figure it out how to win. This team knows how to win. That's a big deal in the NBA.
Well, and I think too, as far as Jamal Murray goes, like to me, Jamal Murray was a guy. Granted, it's Jokic and it should be, but when we talk about other guys stepping up and in the postseason, Jamal Murray answered that bell and then some last year.
Phenomenal player. Great to see after he had that catastrophic knee injury come back from that. And right now, like I said, they're the best 1-2 punch in the NBA. Why? Because they've got the ring to show it. They've got the ring. Could it be Giannis and Lillard? Maybe. Could it be Tatum and Brown? Maybe. Could it be LeBron and Anthony Davis, who won in the bubble, but still haven't gotten to a finals outside the bubble in the real world? And could it be the Phoenix guys? I think those are obviously your top 4 teams right there. But Denver is the team to beat. There's no question about it. They're a great home team. And Jokic is the toughest. The other thing going for him is they go into these games and people cannot match up with Nikola Jokic.
No.
It's impossible. So every night they have a big advantage there. And the guy is just a phenomenal. You saw what he did. He put up 10 triple-doubles in 20 postseason games, which had never been done before. His closeout game against the Lakers, when they swept. Remember, they swept the Lakers. For people in Cleveland may not remember, it was only LeBron's 3rd time he's ever been swept. One time was in the finals against San Antonio. One time was when he was with finals again with Cleveland and against Golden State, I think it was. They got swept out. So he's been swept out now 3 times in his life. And the last time he walked off the court and he's trying to tell people how he was going to retire, which we knew was just a smoke screen because he didn't want to talk about how he got swept. And by the way, Michael Jordan got swept twice.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with that.
He is Mitch Lawrence, longtime NBA columnist, and he's now with Sirius XM NBA Radio. We love talking to him. Great catching up to you, buddy. Looking forward to the season.
Anytime.
All right. Thanks, you, Mitch.
Chico.
All right,
have a
buddy.
great one. See ya.
You too. All right. We will take a break. When we come back, we've got some breaking news involving Deshaun Watson. Apparently, he is back to practice. So we'll get to that when we come back, and also some other things. But again, Deshaun Watson is back to practice. How much he's see, this is where we have to go with this. Now, is he throwing the ball? Is he back to full participant? Is he only taking snaps on screen plays? Is he able to drive the ball? Well, we'll get into that when we come back. It's the Chico Borman Show. Final hour is next right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show here on this Thursday afternoon. Boy, Mitch, that was kind of a, I don't want to say downer. He's being realistic in his mind. I think we got to put more into, and this is why I say it is a big year for JB. And like I said, I hate the whole hot seat thing. I'm just saying this year is going to be big because now you have expectations, now you have playoff experience, and on top of everything else, okay, you added some new faces to the roster. You've kind of changed philosophy a little bit, at least on the offensive end, we think. And you're trying to figure out, is this core your core? And if they don't take that next step, now you have question marks. But he kind of poo-pooed that, to be honest with you. We shall see. All right, the news, as we mentioned before the break, Deshaun Watson is practicing. Deshaun is on the practice field. Yes, that was a golf clap. Because honestly, I don't know what it means. I don't know. Like, the media is so, like, they're not included. They're not allowed to watch a lot of this stuff. How much is Deshaun Watson throwing as he was before the injury? Is he that? I don't know. And here's the other thing, because it's Deshaun, and don't blame me for this, because this is what happened Baltimore week. Because of what happened the week of the Ravens, like, if you hear, or if we all hear, that he looked good today, felt good today, we're going to still kind of be on pins and needles waiting for tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be just as important as today in terms of how he feels after that. Because by all indications, if we're to believe everything we've heard, and you know the Browns would not tell a fib on any of this, if we're to believe everything the Browns have told us, he really hasn't thrown at all. So when he finally does throw, how does that shoulder react tomorrow? And that's Friday, and that's big. Okay, that's, basically the last opportunity to get out there and practice before the game on Sunday against Indianapolis. But it is good news. I mean, there's no getting around that. It's good news. I think it's funny. Amari Cooper, I think, was the one that broke it. Ian Rappaport and Amari Cooper, I believe.
Yeah, so like an hour ago, or I want to say around 11:30, Mary Kay Cabot reported Amari Cooper said that Deshaun Watson will practice.
Yeah, Mary Kay did. That's right. Yeah, Mary Kay. And then Ian Rappaport followed it up.
And Alex Van Pelt, Brown's offensive coordinator, did confirm.
Well, that's good, because I wouldn't have believed it unless AVP confirmed it. So thank you.
I'm just saying, a coach said it too.
Yeah. But has Deshaun confirmed? What if Deshaun ends practice and goes, I didn't throw today? And what if the media is like, wait a minute, we saw you? No, that wasn't me. That was somebody dressed as me. Halloween is on the way.
I got my doppelganger in town.
Yeah, my doppelganger. Ooh, well, never mind. All right, if you want to chime in on the show, you can do that at Chico Show CLE, also on YouTube. So he is back on the practice field, but as we said, very, very gray area right now. Like, this is... okay, what's your gut feeling, Bohm? Does Deshaun Watson play on Sunday?
I really wasn't expecting him to play at all. Like, I had no...
I wasn't either.
Yeah, but this definitely changes things. And now suddenly, I want to say if he's practicing, he's probably going to play, but I got to know how it feels. I got to know how that first time back out there goes.
I got to know what he's... It's like, here's the other thing.
Yeah.
He might be saying... Because remember, after the Baltimore game, I should say the Baltimore week, that leading into the Ravens week, wasn't that when we were hearing like he would take the run play snaps and DTR was taking the pass snaps and so forth and so like is he taking all of them? Is he only taking some? This is why like I can't really, until we get an update on exactly what he's doing at practice. Like, he's practicing. Does that mean he's off to the side? Does that mean he's out with his teammates? I'm guessing he's out with his teammates. Is everything fair game? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, how he feels tomorrow. If he's out there tomorrow, then he's going to, I think he's playing on Sunday.
Well, if he's out there not just handing the ball off tomorrow.
Well, that's a given. I mean, I don't think he wouldn't be. If he's out there tomorrow, he's not going to be taking. He can't be taking snaps away from P.J. Walker if he's not going to be playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would stand
right.
to reason that he's not going to just be handing the ball off.
Yeah, but we need. I mean, this is definitely progress. Make no mistake. But we need to know how things go today.
Thank you, Boom. Boom, you feel? Do you feel a little bit smarter with your painter hat on today?
Not right now. No.
No.
This is my first time wearing a backwards hat in years. Maybe it's weighing on me.
Yeah, I'm trying to. In college, I think was really the last time I couldn't. It doesn't look as solid as it once did. Like when you don't have hair, it doesn't really look as good. But yeah, the backward hat was, and to think it was Booney's buddy, Junior. Junior really made the backwards hat look cool, and it became such a fashion statement. You could make the case that Ken Griffey Jr., by flipping his cap around, and remember, he took heat for it at first. He was like, oh, look at this hot shot and blah, blah, blah. But that's one of the biggest fashion statements ever. I mean, seriously, like everybody began wearing their hat backwards.
The irony that now he looks like the most nerdy dad of all time when he makes public appearances does not escape me.
He does. What makes you say he looks like?
Have you seen what he wears? He wear like the plaid button downs and the dad khakis.
Well, do you want him to come out in like his uniform?
He doesn't. He
bike shorts or something like the bike coach's shorts.
It doesn't carry the same swagger that he once had in his playing days. Okay. I love Griffey. Like it's no shot at him. I'm kind of just teasing, but
right.
No, I mean, if you've seen him making a public appearance lately, he kind of.
Well, the only public appearances I see him with is him with his camera out on the sidelines, which I think is kind of badass, to be honest with you. Like,
that's so cool. Him and Randy Johnson, the big unit.
It's one thing to say, like, I've taken up photography. It's another thing to say, yeah, I'm on I'm doing the game this weekend for CBS. Like, obviously, he's pretty good. He's not. It's not like he's going behind in front of the mic. He's the guy with the camera, so nobody's really going to see him or hear from him. So he's obviously he's Griffey. He's Griffey. Does he have like a signature moment with the camera where like kind of like with the swing where they're like, man, that's so smooth? Do they do the same? Does he have one with the camera where he pans and everybody's like, God, don't you just wish you could pan the camera like he does? It's so smooth.
Like an epic touchdown catch from the perfect angle.
Well, like, how because his swing, the finish was just, it was that lefty, which always looks like, it has an uppercut. Although, surprisingly enough, I threw right. Well, I still do, I guess, technically. Throw right, bat left. I never had that uppercut in my swing, which they said was just, kind of typical. But he had such a beautiful swing.
A thing of art.
And that was, it was him taking batting practice, hat backwards, and that swing that was like, okay, this guy's just, he's
iconic.
As cool can be.
Yeah, absolutely iconic. I played his video game for years. I idolized him. I tried to copy his swing from the right-handed bat perspective. It wasn't quite the same, but, I tried because it's Griffey.
It's never iffy if it's Griffey. You remember that one?
That's right. Because his playing days were like my peak rec league days.
No, do you remember what it's never iffy?
I've never heard that.
That was a Sports Center commercial. That's why I asked you that. Yeah, that was when Kenny Mayne was trying to come up with new catchphrases, and he's in like the dark room and he's like, "Don't he comes up with one, and then the next one he's like, it's never iffy if it's Griffey. It sucks. You can't come up with one.
I wonder if that was before my Sports Center watching days, but yeah, that sounds like a great one. They've all through the years, the This Is Sports Center commercials have been iconic.
You got a lot of iconic references today, Bo.
Well, Griffey and then the This Is Sports Center. I think those are two iconic things.
Yes. Thank you, Boom. I think you're iconic.
Stop.
Yeah. So we're going to get more into this tomorrow. And again, if you're just tuning in, Deshaun Watson back on the practice field, if he's back to being, if he's 80%, 90%, I always hate playing this game because I don't even know what that looks like. Like, have we even seen, okay, let's ask this question. Have we seen 100% Deshaun Watson? And I think when we say 100% Deshaun Watson, I don't just mean health-wise. I mean like 100% the best of Deshaun Watson. I think the answer is without a doubt no. The closest we've come is Tennessee. Unfortunately, unable to carry that momentum because then was Baltimore, and we all know what's happened since. And I think, going back to what he said, and this is why I didn't put any emphasis on what he said yesterday when he was asked a question about getting to 100%, and he's like, I have no idea. Because we've all said that too. Like 100% to us, I'm going to say the fan base, essentially means you're going to look somewhat similar. It'd be nice to say better, but somewhat similar to your Pro Bowl days with the Houston Texans. The reality is, before any shoulder injury, we didn't know then, we don't know now. We certainly don't know now because of the injury. But we'll know more later today, certainly tomorrow. If he's back on the practice field tomorrow, I would say it is a very, very good shot that he's going to play on Sunday against Indianapolis. But again, that remains to be seen. All right, college football coming up on tomorrow's show. We're going to be focusing a lot on Ohio State and Penn State. It is going to be a rocking atmosphere at the Shoe. I hate the fact that it's no, I shouldn't say that. If it's at the Shoe, I have no problem with it being at noon. I'd rather it be at night, but it's really, if you're going to have Ohio State, Penn State, and if it's going to be in State College, it has to be at night, in my opinion. But this game, and more, it's coming down to Drew Aller, Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord, Drew Aller. Like, James Franklin hasn't really allowed Aller, to the point where Franklin actually went off on a reporter. He was, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and somebody, he wasn't, the reporter I don't think was trying to bait him or anything. He just said, it was like, I think it was the game, they played Massachusetts last week. And I think the reporter was basically asking, like, hey, would you just allow him to take some shots, just to like give him some confidence? He's like, you think I'm just going to throw long just for the hell of it? And like Franklin just took it all wrong. And all anyone was saying is, Drew, nobody's ever questioned Aller's arm strength. I mean, I've mentioned Joe Klatt over and over again. Go back and listen to some of Klatt's podcast talking about Aller and his ability to spin it and how he loves how it comes out of his hand. Now, it's also his first year starting at QB, so I know there's going to be a little bit of a tight leash on him, I guess, but you would think, you're 6 games into the season, like he's going to start letting it loose. And he hasn't. Maybe that'll be against Ohio State. I don't know. But I think both of those defenses are going to be trying to get after that quarterback. I wonder, Kyle McCord at home, you've seen him do it. Put it this way. You've seen Kyle McCord do it when he had to in a big situation, and he did it on the road. Drew Aller hasn't been in that situation. Now, again, that's not his fault because Penn State hasn't put him in this situation. But you know that as these games get tougher, beginning with Saturday, there is no place to run. There's no place to hide. They're going to have to make big plays. Like, you're not going to have at least you hope not, a 3-4 score lead where you can just hand the ball off. And they've got, a pretty good running game. So I think it's one of those situations where both of these guys are going to have to make plays. Penn State's defense is very, very good, exceptional. But I wonder how much they kind of take the training wheels off in terms of, I think that lady almost fell down opening the door.
Maybe I should start locking the door.
No, because that's scary for me. Then I don't know if you go into like some kind of hostage situation, and I don't know if I.
You're worried that I'm going to take you hostage? Is that what you're implying?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I don't. You're very unpredictable.
Yeah, I'm a loose cannon.
Yeah, I mean I am too, but I would never know. Like,
I might just be crazy enough to take you hostage. I get it.
Lana Del Rey doesn't reply to a certain tweet, and you suddenly lose your mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Are you ready to do fair or foul?
Sure, why not?
All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, fair or foul with Mr. Bombastic wearing his Browns painter hat backwards. He's a bad, bad dude. We'll be back with more of the Chico Borman Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show. Boom, I got my flu shot yesterday. Kind of. I've never really been a flu shot guy until the last 3 or 4 years. But I will say, like, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. It's not so much that you don't get it, but when you get it, it doesn't last as long and not as severe. So knock on wood. But I woke up this morning and I had a headache, and I was like, damn it. Thought I had it just from getting the shot.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you feel better, Chico.
Yeah, that's annoying. All right, it's time for another stirring edition of Fair or Foul with Michael Bone.
All right, Chico. Well, let's kick things off in the NFL,
Let's
where Brian Baldinger had an interesting comment. And, I really enjoy his analysis, especially when he goes
Baldy's
in
breakdowns.
depth. Yeah, when he goes in depth on the Browns, it's always extremely insightful, and yeah, his enthusiasm is great. But anyway, he had some comments about the Atlanta Falcons, in which he said Atlanta could win the Super Bowl if they had Tom Brady at quarterback. Now, that's not what I'm going to say to you right now, but what I do want to ask you, Chico, is fair or foul? The Falcons are competent quarterback play away from being legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
How is that any different than what?
I mean, it doesn't just have to be Tom Brady. Tom Brady is old. You know, like, are you going to get? You're not going to get peak Tom Brady.
Well, okay. I mean, you leave it real. What's competent quarterback play? Explain that to me.
Let's say top. Because what are you expecting from Tom Brady? I think you're expecting average to above average at this point if he were to be playing. You know, a guy who can just get the ball in playmakers' hands. So let's say top 15 quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I'll say this. They have an incredible running back in Bijan Robinson, and really Algier is also very, very good. Obviously, he was outstanding last year, and they still went ahead and drafted Bijan. Drake London is a good wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, he can't stay on the field, and that's not injury related. It's just he can't block anybody. He doesn't block anybody. Defensively, I can't say that I've seen a ton of Atlanta, so I guess I'll defer to him. But when you say competent quarterback away, it kind of leaves it very general. I'm going to go foul on that, I guess. Yeah.
All right, Chico. Well, moving on, where a lot of big names circulating around the rumor wire about potentially being dealt before the trade deadline. I want to start on the defensive side of the ball, where Chase Young, it feels like, is starting to get his career together, where he was plagued a little bit by injury concerns. He hasn't really flashed as much as you would have liked. But it's possible that he could be dealt before this deadline. He is one of those players whose names have been circulated. And I want to ask you, I saw a proposed trade from Pro Football Focus, and I thought this was interesting. Like, this is something that legitimately, like, the Browns could do if they wanted to, because they would actually have the resources for this. But the hypothetical trade would be the Baltimore Ravens trading for Chase Young, Chico, for 2 third-round picks. Fair or foul? You think both sides are doing that deal?
Okay, what is Chase Young's contract situation?
Good question.
Yeah,
Stand by.
It's all right. Again, not video games. There's real life. I'll just. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you go ahead and figure that out.
Okay, so he's entering his 4th year. All right, let's do a new question. Moving on.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Chico. Well, I guess that's another trade question. Okay, Kyler Murray has
feel free to actually look up when you actually do these questions, feel free to look up their contract situation.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Happy to be here to point it out.
Yeah, so Kyler Murray is rumored to he was brought back from the IR. He's been rehabbing that torn ACL injury. First off, let me ask you, fair or foul, do you expect him to start this week?
No, foul.
And then also, to follow that up, I want to ask you, Chico, fair or foul, is it possible that the Cardinals could move on from him after this season if he doesn't put forth the outcome that maybe they're hoping when he returns from injury?
Well, I think fair, and I think they're going to anyway. I've been saying all along, I mean, look, they have to play this the right way in order to keep his trade value as high as possible. But I mean, if put it this way, if I'm Jonathan Gannon, I don't. Culture's a big deal. Kyler Murray doesn't just all of a sudden change who he is. Now, he may say things that sounds like he's changing who he is because his contract and because he got paid a lot of money and because he knows that he's in danger of losing that money. But does anybody really believe that, A, Kyler Murray is 100% in love with football and is gonna work his ass off to be the best he can be as a quarterback in the NFL, and then B, that he doesn't have one eyeball on going to play baseball? He's going to leave to play baseball at some point. So I'm going to say foul. They're moving, or fair. They're moving away from him. I don't think you can really. The answer to both those questions to me is no. Like, he never watched film. All of a sudden, he's just going to become a gym rat, a film rat. Like, no, I'm not buying that. So. I'll say fair.
Now, Chico, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you expect him to go just play baseball. I didn't. I mean, obviously, I know he was drafted first round by the A's,
10th overall. Yep.
Yeah, but I didn't think about that. Just like leaving the NFL altogether and deciding to just switch to baseball. Would you expect him to make any sort of impact in Major League Baseball if he were to make that switch?
I mean, I can't say because he has. I don't know how much he's
been out of practice.
Yes, he has. But he is 10th overall, and
the talent is there.
Yeah, yes.
All right, Chico. Well, moving on. Potential scandal brewing in college football surrounding the U of M Wolverines, as the NCAA has opened an investigation into possible rule breaking around in-person scouting of opponents. This is per Dan Wetzel and Rosh Dellinger. And it's being rumored that they're sending scouts to games to steal signs. Now, of course, this reminds me of a scandal that we saw with the Patriots, where they have repeatedly been accused of doing this. Fair or foul, Chico, do you think there will be repercussions for the U of M?
Fair or foul, do I know if there's any proof that they have done that?
Probably foul.
So I mean, I don't know. This is the first. If it's true, which at this point, I mean, this is the first I'm hearing of it. If it's true and they can prove it, and then yeah, I think there's going to be harsh repercussions. But
if it's true, fair or foul, Jim Harbaugh will not recover from this. He'll lose his job.
Foul.
You think he could make it through that? I feel like in college football, a scandal like that feels pretty massive.
Boom. They've waited for a while for Michigan to get over the hump and to be where they're at. And again, who knows how severe this is? This whole thing might be nothing at all. So I don't know. You're saying filming practices?
No, attending live games and monitoring, like watching the signs and taking those back to their confines in Ann Arbor.
Okay, wait a minute. Are they using technology?
I do not know. Probably.
Okay, that's important because
I would assume so.
If they're just watching the game and they pick up on something, that's fair.
Yeah. So this, and the reason that it first became exposed was because Michigan State reported it to the NCAA. So this is a brand new investigation.
Let me look at this.
Yeah, so it's courtesy of Yahoo Sports.
Yeah, I'm looking at the ESPN. Michigan, you're still facing level 2 violations. In-person scouring of future opponents. Scouring. Is that supposed to be scouting?
Yeah.
Off.
Great typo.
That can't be right. Off. It says, if true, the number 2 Wolverines would have violated NCAA bylaw 11.6.1, which states, quote, off-campus, in-person, this says scouring of future opponents in the same season is prohibited. I'm guessing that means scouting. You can't watch. I mean, What's the difference if you watch them on television? Well, I guess, yeah. I didn't even know that rule. I mean, you have advanced scouts in every other sport. They're watching. You've got teams. You've got scouts on your staff that are watching teams ahead of time and games ahead of time.
I think there's a distinction though between like watching what happens on the field and watching what happens on the sideline.
Well, again, if your intent is, and this is what it will come down to, if they have footage, and the NCAA has proof of them having footage of like taping them with their signs, then yes. But if they're saying that they're at the 40-yard line across the field watching the game, and all of a sudden, like, yeah, they're able to come up with some signs, then I don't know. I have to see how this one plays out, but I don't know if he would make it out of that.
Yeah, sticky situation brewing in Ann Arbor. We'll certainly have to see where that goes. But I want to go back to the NFL, Chico, where I did look up some NFL contract information.
Good for you, Boom. That way to do some work, buddy. Way to do some work.
So one player that is newly rumored to have hit the market this week is Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry, who is he's in currently his final year of his deal. Now I want to ask for what?
Nothing. I'm waiting. Go
okay. For another player that has been speculated as a team could be moving on from would be Davante Adams, wide receiver from the Raiders, who is still signed through 2026. Obviously, just inked to that massive $140 million
Raiders
deal.
aren't going to move him. They can't. They won't move him.
You don't expect so?
No, because they've already torn up that locker room enough. I mean, what if they go and get rid of their best player on top of everything else? It's going to be a mutiny in there. No, I don't think they will.
So, okay, then let me ask you this: fair or foul, the Raiders can't have a fire sale, despite all of the turmoil that's currently taking place.
Well, I mean, can you have a fire sale without Davante Adams? Yeah, you can. I mean, there's guys that you can look to move, but I just don't think they're going to be looking to move their best player, unless they get an incredible offer, or even still, like I don't see them moving him.
And that just Vegas feels like one of the messiest situations in football right now. You've got them, you've got
clearly.
Denver.
Yeah.
Things seem to be falling apart. I guess at least it's good that Cleveland is not currently at that dumpster fire stage anymore. We've come a long way.
That is a great observation, Bowman. You are correct. That would be fair. Yes.
Now, with that, I want to circle back to Derrick Henry now, who, as I mentioned, is heading into the final year, or currently playing out the final year of his deal. Tennessee, he's turning 30. Fair or foul, Chico? Do you expect Derrick Henry to be moved before the trade deadline?
No. Again, another player I don't think Tennessee would move on from. I mean, why would Tennessee? I mean, again, not knowing what the market would be and what they could get for him, but you just said he's 30 years old, so I don't think it would be a whole hell of a lot. The Titans, while they're 2 games below 500, they're only what? How many? 2 games out of first place. Jacksonville's
Currently 2-4.
Yeah, Jacksonville's leading at 4-2, and Jacksonville isn't exactly. They've got questions on Trevor Lawrence. No, I mean, we're talking about a team that, usually plays well later in the season anyway. But I don't, unless the market was, and it could be, but I don't think they would. I don't think Tennessee would be looking to move him.
And I found that to be interesting too. Just the fact that Tennessee is like putting out feelers. The report suggested that they're exploring possible trade ideas. But yeah, I think ultimately, and to your point, that running back market, it's not very valuable right now. And maybe there's a team out there though that wants to win now, right? At that expiring deal, just go all in on getting a guy who some might consider the best healthy running back in football right now.
The Browns?
You know what? I mean, I don't know what you would offer them, but
No. Yeah, I don't know what they're expecting. I have no idea what they're expecting.
Yeah.
Probably can't meet that because they don't have much high draft capital anymore.
Right. Now, if you were to do that Chase Young deal of 2 third-round picks, you could do that, but would it be worth it is the question, I guess, for 1 year when you don't even know like what you're getting out of Watson.
And third rounders are pretty important.
They are.
You know, especially when you don't have first rounders. Like, you got to have some draft picks. You know, and it's not like that's an area. No. Yeah, you're not doing that. What's his contract? Do you know what his contract is? What he's got left?
He's making $12 million this year on his final year.
Yeah, so then you have to sign him? No.
Well, not necessarily. If you're just going for a 1 year win now type of situation.
But giving up 2 threes. No. No.
Yeah.
No.
And look, Derrick Henry is a freak of nature. But he, at 30 years old, it's hard to have.
Freak. He's a freak of nature.
It's hard to have faith in him having a much longer career as a running back who's taken such a beating.
Yeah.
And with that is fair or foul.
Thank you, Bo. He's a freak. He's a freak of nature.
I apologize to the viewers out there for the for that fair or foul.
No, it was good. I thought you really did a great job. Great job on it. And I would certainly encourage many of you out there to continue to be listening for tomorrow's edition of Fair or Foul with Bohm in his painter's hat.
So no inverse fair or foul tomorrow. Let me just get this right.
You know what? No, we are going to do it. Yeah, because honestly, we're back to because you don't prepare. You don't prepare. You don't have a question about somebody and then when I say, well, what's their contract, and just go, stand by.
It's not that I didn't prepare. It's just that I didn't prepare enough. Because I did put some preparation. I did put preparation in.
No, that's not preparing.
There were details that I did not consider.
Yeah, it's because you were too busy sleeping.
Well, not sleeping, but.
Well, what were you doing?
I don't remember exactly when I saw that particular tweet that notified me of it. But it's very possible that I was in the midst of editing a TikTok, or maybe I was working, or...
Editing a TikTok?
Yeah.
What editing? Whose TikTok?
Mine. I was making one. First, you have to film it, and then I put it over music, so you have to edit in over the music, and you have to make sure it times out, right?
Right.
So it's a little bit of a process, and then you have to convert it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Update on Deshaun Watson when we come back. He is back on the practice field. Does that mean he is back on Sunday? We'll talk about it when we come back. It's the Chico Borman Show with Bohm, right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show as we wind things down on this Thursday. Again, coming up tomorrow, breaking down a huge one for the Buckeyes at the Shoe, high noon on Saturday in Columbus. The Buckeyes taking on Penn State, both undefeated. Obviously, playoff implications and conference title and all that good stuff on the line. So we will be talking to Bill Landis from Rivals coming up on tomorrow's program. All right, big news today. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, and it is big news. I don't mean to dismiss it as if it's not, but I don't know. It's big news. I don't know how big it is because Deshaun Watson's back at practice. How much he's throwing, I don't know. Like, is he FP, full participant? Is he LP, limited participant? It is definitely good news, certainly to the alternative, if he is at practice and is practicing and is talking to the media. He's taking part in activities that certainly would at least lead us to believe he's heading in the direction of playing on Sunday. But I would caution that what he wakes up, how he wakes up tomorrow, does the shoulder feel good? Does he have any? Because I get the sense the way the Browns have handled this, and maybe I'm wrong, but if he feels anything, I mean the slightest twinge, I get the sense that they would just, okay, you're not playing. Like they want him to be, and they've come to this point with it, where you sat him against Baltimore, you sat him against San Francisco, that at this point, you want to make sure he's as close to 100% as possible. And yes, like if there is that chance that he can injure that thing further, and apparently there is, but the chances go down greatly if, he's very cautious with it. But if there's a chance that he can still injure that thing further, and then all of a sudden you're done for a 6 to 8 game stretch, no. I mean, you absolutely, you don't do that. So we'll wait and see. Take it for what it is. He's back on the practice field. That is good news. What he was able to do today, we'll find out. And then, as I said, by the time we go on the air tomorrow at noon, we will know a lot more. Not only how he feels, how much he's practicing, all of that stuff. But Deshaun getting on the practice field is certainly a good sign for the Cleveland Browns. All right, I wanted to get to this story on Bill Self. So the NCAA investigation, which, by the way, I'm glad I'm not the only one. This NCAA investigation that included the FBI into Bill Self in Kansas, the Kansas head basketball coach, honestly feels like it's been going on for like 8 years. It finally ended last week without additional penalties imposed on him or Kansas by the independent resolution panel. Still, Bill Self says caused significant damage. He says, quote, he told ESPN at Big 12 Media Day yesterday, "I think my reputation has been tarnished immensely. But the whole thing is we knew right from the jump what we had done and what we had not done. The bottom line is I'm proud of how we conducted our business. At the end of the day, it was a long blip, but it was still a blip in the big scheme of things." Okay, first of all, let's not act like there was nothing at all that you did. They initially accused Kansas of 5 level 1 violations in 2019 for attempting to gain an illegal edge in recruiting via Adidas. There was a pair of 4-game suspensions for Self and his assistant, Curtis Townsend. And let's just call it what it is. Self threw his assistant under the bus, which is a lot of times what they'll do in this situation. Like Curtis, I'm going to say that I had no knowledge of this, and I don't care what anybody says, even in football, although it's a little more understandable, or I should say it can be more plausible in football, that maybe it's so big and your program's so big that maybe you don't know every last. But when you're a basketball program and you're Kansas at that, and it's yourself and, you have your top assistant, in this case was Curtis Townsend, and yes, you have other assistants, but that's your main guy is your main recruiter. You can't, or you can, but nobody's going to believe you. You can't say that, I didn't know anything. I had no idea that Curtis Townsend was taking money from Adidas or promising things from Adidas. Of course you did. Of course you did. So now, I'd rather Bill Self just kind of went on his way and said, it is what it is, it's done, and we're moving on. But don't, to cry the blues that, I think my reputation has been tarnished immensely, you still have a job. You're still coaching Kansas. I could see if all of a sudden you're gone and you're coaching some D3 school, or you're out of basketball entirely and you've been shunned by everybody in hoops, you're still coaching a blue blood of college basketball. But my reputation has been tarnished immensely. Yeah, that's what happens when you break the rules and the feds have to get involved, Bill. I mean, and he's not the only one, but again, getting caught and, the other guy's doing it too is not a viable excuse. I can't stand when coaches do this sort of thing, because essentially what it does, first of all, is Curtis Townsend, and yes, Curtis Townsend should pay the price too, but Bill Self wants you to believe and me to believe and everybody to believe that Curtis Townsend was acting on his own volition, was not acting under the direction of Bill Self. It was Curtis Townsend on his own that decided to break recruiting rules, on his own that lied to FBI officials. Bill Self had no idea. Yeah, it's not like you're in close contact with this dude every freaking day. That's where I say, with football, you still have coaches meetings, but there's a lot of guys on your staff. You still have, all kinds of different meetings, and there's a lot that goes into it. And yes, there's a lot that goes into being a head coach, but I think in basketball, it's probably the least plausible excuse of all the sports where you can say, you know what? I had no idea it was going on. Dude, your program isn't that big. And the guy that is heading up and is your right-hand man as far as recruiting is your right-hand man. You're talking to him every day. I mean, he is as important to you. You probably have more conversations with that dude than you do your wife during the course of a year. I mean, let's just be real. He's having more communications with him than anybody else, because it's all about getting the top recruits and getting the top prospects and where are we on this guy. So we're to believe that Bill Self had no idea what Curtis Townsend was doing. And now we should feel sorry for him because, in his words, quote, "My reputation has been tarnished immensely." I like when he says the bottom line is, I'm proud of how we conducted our business. Really? You're proud, Bill? Oh, man.
He's guilt tripping us, Chico.
He is. He absolutely is. Yep. Said he's happy to finally move forward. Oh, poor Bill. I think it's been frustrating. He just continues on. Quote, I think it's been so frustrating because we haven't been able to speak out or speak up or to have comment or even defend ourselves in many ways. But looking back now, frustrating, taxing, a lot of different things. I've said this before, I'll say it again, and I'll end with this. I'm not saying that the federal government doesn't mess up, okay? But the FBI never just on a whim, like they don't gather for a morning meeting and go, man, there is really nothing going on. What do you got anything? Not really. You know what? Why don't we just, I don't know. I'm a Missouri grad. I can't stand Bill Self in Kansas. Doesn't he act all right? Let's go and invest. No, these are the feds. If it's the NCAA, then okay, I'll give you something there. But the federal government, the FBI, does not wiretap. They don't tap into your phone lines just because they're bored looking for something to do, Bill. They don't. And they didn't hear. And you were wrong. You're actually fortunate because you're a great coach. You're still there. You're a great coach. You're a great recruiter. You're still there. Just be thankful for it. Now, you're also a bit of a scumbag because you threw Curtis Townsend under the bus. And hopefully maybe you're taking care of him and his family because he sacrificed his career or some of it for you. So hopefully he's got some kickback coming from some of that. But if Curtis Townsend wanted to sell Bill Self under and put him on blast, he totally could. He didn't know what was going on. Give me a break.
Teflon Bill over here playing the victim. Get a load of this guy.
What is this? Boom. Self said, this one is, I won't get into it because we're almost done. But I encourage you to read this story. It is pretty funny because it's like all of the things that the FBI looked into, like they weren't just sniffing around. There was a lot of, and some of the stuff they couldn't or didn't want to go into much detail or prove, or I don't doubt that they didn't have enough evidence in some of these cases, but to just act like it was Curtis Townsend who knew and the coach had no idea. Like, yeah, you're not in contact with that dude 24/7. He's your right-hand man.
Yeah, it's like, I must be such a good recruiter. Wow. Yep, nope, nothing illegal going on here. I'm just so good at what I do.
Can you imagine how upset he must have been at Curtis? Can you imagine? He must have just been like the dad upset at his young son who cheated on a test and just said, that is not the way we do things here at Rock Chalk Jayhawk. We do it the right way. We tell everybody that we're going to get you an education, we're going to make you a fine young man, and we're going to send you out, and we're not going to do anything unethical. Imagine that talk that he must have had with Curtis Townsend, I'm sure.
If he really didn't know, then, boy, that had to be a shot to his ego.
If he didn't know, then you should fire him for derelict of duty. Like, how do you not know that's going on? So, that number one kid that we're recruiting, what's going on with him? Oh, nothing. Okay. All right. I'll take your word for that. All right. Let's just get to practice. Give me a break. All right. We'll have more on Deshaun Watson. Speaking of practice. Practice? We talking about practice? Yeah. Deshaun Watson at practice today. How much did he practice? How's he going to feel for tomorrow's practice? We shall see ahead of the Browns taking on the Indianapolis Colts tomorrow. Oh, yeah. We're breaking it down. Won't be long now. Buckeyes and Nittany Lions from the shoot. Feel like Gus Johnson. You got barbecue back there. You didn't tell me. Hurt my feelings. He's going to say, live from the legendary Horseshoe. Now let's go down to the sideline. The All-American girl, Jenny Taft. We'll talk to Bill Landis, not in that voice, tomorrow. From
You should do it in that voice, actually.
So, Bill,
Click. All right. I'm Mike Chico Borman for Michael Bohm, who appreciates all of you more than you know, and all of us here at Big Play Sports. Make it a great rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow at noon.